Ransomware rarely announces itself until it's too late. It begins quietly, with subtle signs of an attacker establishing a foothold. Ransomware like Embargo, part of the ransomware as a service ecosystem, thrive on patience, spending weeks deploying tools, testing persistence, and preparing to return even after eviction. These campaigns are deliberate, with encryption held back until the moment of maximum impact. Detecting activity during this stage can mean the difference between swift containment and a full-scale ransomware crisis. Embargo, ransomware as a service. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so we've worked several cases over the last year involving Embargo ransomware. This threat actor frequently likes to obtain initial access into client environments through unpatched network devices. From there, they typically map out their targets, move laterally, and start to target certain types of data before eventually deploying ransomware.
Unpatched network devices, a trend we've seen over a few years now. What makes the actors deploying Embargo so unique in their operations?
Initial entry through unpatched network devices isn't necessarily unique in and of itself. I think what sets this cluster of activity apart from others is that we see them deploying things like reverse SOX proxies using unique C2 addresses for each deployment, especially targeting unmanaged vSphere systems.
So they gain initial access to these unmanaged, unpatched network devices. What do we see them do next?
So typically that's followed by some type of reconnaissance to get a feel for what they have access to within an environment. It's not unusual for them to get access using a low privilege account. It's at that point that they attempt to escalate privileges by accessing additional credentials. Once they've done that, they attempt to establish persistence into the environment. This allows them to exert some pressure into the ransom negotiation process after deploying ransomware.
What types of persistence do we see these actors deploying?
So in addition to the reverse SOX proxies, right, allows them to come back in through those managed systems, we see them developing something of a skeleton key approach by targeting a client single sign-on provider. What this looks like in practice is they're able to copy out the legitimate Active Directory syncing configurations. Once they have the valid information for that workflow, they can then deploy their own malicious syncing agent to get visibility into credential activity even after password resets.
Pretty slick attacker in the middle technique. So identifying the configuration, manipulating it, and using that for what tactics specifically?
Generally, what they are then doing is they are working to deploy ransomware. But when a client goes to perform remediation activity, they are typically resetting passwords, and this allows them to get visibility into those password resets and can often go overlooked.
These adversaries deploying Embargo, are they following a double extortion method? And can you talk to us about what they're doing there?
Yeah, the double extortion tactic is becoming more and more common with these threat actors. And typically what that looks like is that after deploying ransomware to an environment, it doesn't just stop there. It will often reach out to company executives and threaten release of sensitive information if a payment is not made in response to their ransom demand.
We talked about double extortion. What exactly are we seeing them do in terms of staging and exfiltration of data?
Yeah, these threat actors like to use freely available file transfer utilities to send data to free cloud storage services. What makes this a challenge for clients to defend against is that oftentimes there are valid use cases for use of these tools within their environment.
So what happens when we get called in? How do we respond to these types of breaches?
Yeah, so our team works on a 24/7 always-on operating model. We usually start by deploying our Falcon sensor technology to get visibility into an environment, something akin to putting out the fire. Similarly, our goals include developing a timeline or a narrative around the facts of the incident. We always use the analogy in those cases that we are investigating the arson. Some of my more memorable client success stories are partnering with our active defense services team to kick out a live adversary out of a network prior to the successful encryption of.
Any specific Falcon modules that help us eradicate the attacker even faster?
Yeah, for cases like this, Falcon Identity is important. Allows us to get a clear Active Directory audit trails for exactly what the threat actor is doing with specific accounts. Further to that point, our Falcon Overwatch team provides an additional layer of monitoring on a 24/7 basis. So if the threat actor does return, right, we have visibility into that activity.
What types of proactive services can clients incorporate to further minimize the risk?
In cases like this, identity security is an emphasis for us with clients. Threat actors frequently exploit misconfigurations in Active Directory to further their goals. By contrast, we can leverage Falcon Shield to obtain visibility into cloud tenants, in particular single sign-on providers, to help articulate what the threat actor may have been able to do.
All right, fantastic. Waylon, thank you so much. We'll keep fighting the good fight.
All right, thanks, Tim.